Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we have Roy. So Roy is based in Queensland, but he originated from the East Midlands. I moved over there to start another life, another journey over there. So Roy is also a psychic medium. He's a life coach, and he likes to work with men. Really, like to find their inner king. So during your work, Roy, can you tell us a bit about how you started this and how your journey's evolved over time? Because you've been doing this for many years now, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been doing a journey since I was born, pretty much. The working with men came about because I'd done that journey myself, and I knew the benefit that it brings, and the balance it brings, the peace of mind that it brings, and because men don't deal with stress very well,
Mm.
um, we don't deal with our emotions very well. We hide everything in. We rarely feel we've got people we can talk to. So there's all these things that as men we've struggled with for many years, and even going on like a generational. We're still only one generation away from the Second World War,
Yeah,
so we're still carrying that energy and dealing with that, and it's a lot of men they're the ones transmuting that energy. So we're carrying this anger and trauma and not knowing where it's really come from. So I help men and other people. I don't always work with men, but I
yeah.
help people and men understand their inner energy, understand their journey, and then help them bring it into layman's terms so they can make sense of it so they know where they fit in their world, where they fit in their life, where they fit in their relationships, and then create balance and become empowered, put boundaries where they need boundaries, remove boundaries where they need to be softer, where they need to be softer, be tougher, and so on and so forth. So I balance them out so that then they can be more calm and make better decisions in the moment because they're not stressed and you're not coiled down like a spring. So they're quite chilled and go,
Mhm.
okay, today I need to work on this. Today I'm being drawn to work on that. Today I need to put good effort in my daily job or whatever that may be. Or, okay, I'm being called to completely change my career. So, you know,
Mm.
in the very simplest term, I empower people to be the best versions of themselves, which is the modern term is stepping into their sovereignty.
Yeah. Well, you think about that. All of us have got grandparents or somewhere along the line that have been in a war. And I think a lot of people don't really take that into account that you could be carrying that trauma through because they often think of things like maybe addictions and other stuff that maybe were genetic, if you like, or carried through the generational line. But they don't think about what could be holding them in that state of feeling in fear, anger, that being stressed, and maybe not even controlling their emotions very well, getting triggered.
Yeah. Yeah. Because my dad actually served frontline in Korea.
Yeah.
It was conscripted. It was national service back then in the early 50s. So yeah, he saw some things that nobody you ever want to see. And I myself served in the British Royal Navy.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that generational because my dad would have carried what he saw and what he felt and what he had to deal with, and then
Yeah,
energetically would have passed that on to his kids. Me
that's
and me and
right.
my brothers and sisters. So then, me being highly sensitive and an empath and an energetic psychic, I would have taken that on board and wouldn't know what to do with it. And I'm speaking in the moment now. It was probably part of my training
Yeah.
to be able to transmute that and release that and take that on board and go, well, that was probably why I would say in this moment now, definitely part of the reason why I joined the armed forces.
Mm.
So that I knew the energy of it, because it's not know thy enemy or know thy energy, as
Yeah.
which is a better way for us psychically inclined is know thy energy. And when you know the energy, you can understand it and transmute it. So when I work with others, I'm able to tune into them and know their energy and then
Mm.
explain it to them in layman's terms and go, right, this is what's going on. And the amount of times I see people that realization come across their eyes to go, I don't know if I believe this, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
because their body is saying it's true, not their mind, not their beliefs. And the
Mm,
body energetically never lies.
mm,
And that's the difference between, we were speaking earlier before we started the podcast, but we're speaking about
yeah.
the difference between human truth, which is just a very complex set of opinions where you've learned from books, people, TV, everything, and just culminated it to what you so strongly believe in it, you think it's true. And that's massively different to energetic truth.
Yeah.
So when someone tells you an energetic truth, your human truth tries to block it out and go, no, 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 they don't match. But your body
Mm,
responds in such a way that it's not long before you bow down to the energetic truth and go, I can't deny this because my whole body, my whole energetic being coming through my physical body is going, it's undeniable.
mm. How
And
do you
when you
think
get
it
to that point, they
manifests?
change.
How do you think it manifests so like people can recognize that maybe they're holding on to something?
Are the classic ones, the really big classic ones, divorce, car crashes, illnesses, leg breaks, bodily injuries, things that put you asleep. Not sorry, but put you asleep, put you either in a
Rest.
hospital for a couple of days or put you through a very, really life-changing situation. Um, yeah, they're usually signs of massive upgrades that you haven't been following your path.
Mm,
Some people that, if you know someone who've known them, say, 20 years and they've never gone through any of those things, it might just be that they're naturally good at following their path. So they don't need that massive redirection.
right. Okay. Well, what about if they've lived a life maybe feeling depressed or anxious and not having a lot of confidence? Do you think that's got something to do with it, or do you think that's just generally how they are, their personality?
No, look, I truly believe because I've done a lot of neuroscience and
Yeah.
I've learned NLP and hypnotism and I'm qualified in hypnosis and NLP.
Okay.
So and I've read a few books on because to understand the mind, that's like the understanding the human
Mm,
operating system that helps us live in this world. You can't
yeah.
just work on the energy. You've got to, for me, I
Understand all
work
of
on
it.
the energy in the mind and the body, the
Yeah.
physical body, because they all talk to each other. And
Hmm.
one of them's telling the truth. That one of them's telling the most truth. And so it's like, depending on what's going on with any particular person, if they've got bodily injuries, their body's telling the truth. If they've got mental injuries, their mind's telling the truth. If they're always feeling off or they're anxious and that's the energy telling the truth.
Yeah.
So that's the
Just
one I talk to.
okay. I'm just
So
wondering if
in regards
anyone.
to in regards to the question you asked,
Yeah.
there's also when we're born, we need to reacquaint with Mother Earth. So for the first 7 years, we learn monkey see, monkey do.
Mm,
So if we're depressed, who do we learn that off? If you're depressed or anxious, the first question you should always ask yourself is, which one of my parents, or which people that raised me, because it's not always parents, but which one of the people that predominantly raised me was depressed or anxious? That's who you learned it off. And I can say this from personal experience working with all the people I've worked with over 30 odd years. 90% of the time, it's not yours. It's not
mm,
even your stuff. You've just learnt it.
yeah, I agree. I just find it some pointers for people that are a bit stuck at the moment and thinking like, where can they look at themselves or look within to go, right, well, I've had this for a long time. I wonder if it could be something other than just me now. And maybe they feel a bit like, oh, I feel a calling to get some help now and maybe sort this out. But I'm not sure. Perhaps I'm imagining it. So I just think, you know what men are like? They'll push things to one side, won't they? And go, well, I'll just carry on doing my thing, not really like, I'm okay, as they do. And I think sometimes they just need an aha moment, something to hit. And I
Yeah.
think like you're like a good person to give that out and they'll listen, they'll get it from you.
Yeah, look, it's always like if you're feeling like you need help, then 100% you need help.
Mm,
But it's not in the way that you think you need the help.
yeah.
You're not weak. what it is, strangely enough, you don't need help, you need change. It's, and for me, the most common way I get beyond and into people to help them see what's going on is I just use different words. I help them use a different word. So
Okay.
earlier on, you used the word addiction, right? To
Hmm.
me, nobody on the planet is addicted to anything. What they are doing is escaping from something.
Yeah.
And so when you get that person to go, actually, you're not addicted, you're escaping, and you give them the right word so their mind can make sense of what they're doing. The reason people are stuck is
Mm.
because they're not using the right word.
Yeah.
So people think they're addicted and they're stuck being addicted. If you get that person and say, actually, you're escaping from this, then they can go, actually, yeah, you're right. I am escaping. And when they know what they're doing, then they can change it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I think it's so good, like to have a diverse, like mixture of people on the podcast with their different views and opinions, and especially to have more men on, which is I've made a point of having more men because I know I have men that follow the podcast, and sometimes getting just a different perspective rather than coming from a female, it hits.
Hmm.
And I think like I got a really strong like intuition with you that some of the things you're going to say are going to hit somebody or some people today.
Because men are very logical still. I mean,
Yeah.
I was born intuitive. I've always been highly gifted, could see ghosts from a young age, and it's just always been part of me. I never shut the gifts fully down either. And I was very
Mm,
blessed that I didn't do the gift shutting down journey. I just let it hum in the background for a while until I figured, because I knew it had a purpose. I didn't know what. I just thought, well, you can hum along in the background and I'll figure it out as I go along. And but I've always been very logical too. So I've
mm,
managed to blend my intuition with my mind, and which, as highly as intuitive as I am, I'm still very logical at times. But it's an intuitive logic, not a human logic.
mm,
And it's just it's probably just an intuitive man's makeup probably just emanates out that way. Whereas like the likes of yourself, the women intuitives are very feeling. And even
mm.
though I'm an empath, I can pick up on energies and pick up on emotions and feelings and stuff like that. Mine then tends to go through the process and go, right, how do I then bring this into layman's terms? Whereas a lot of the women I work with, not as clients, but as psychics and stuff like that, will still talk to a man a bit all over the place sometimes, a bit because it's all emotions. And sometimes, like even with my wife, who's highly gifted as well and very good with communication and that, we often not clash, but look at each other going, what the hell are you
Mm.
talking about? And then after a quick conversation, we're literally talking about the same thing in a
Yeah.
completely different language
Yeah.
because she's talking from feelings and I'm talking from sense.
Yeah.
And those two languages, and here's a wisdom for you: those two languages never ever never the twain shall meet because they're just completely incompatible with each other.
Yeah. I wonder if she's listening to this.
Yeah. I'll tell her about it.
She can watch it.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So in that regards, like, so this is the key thing for me when it comes to relationships and repairing relationships. It's
Mm,
communication, but it's not just communication. It's having that patience with each other, knowing that you're speaking completely different languages, but also like if it's been happening for a while, to put all the past behind you and go, right, okay, in the past, we just weren't communicating very well. So let's both own that and let's start, draw a line and go, right, from here, we're going to try and communicate better, which is going to take time. And
yeah.
yes, we are going to get frustrated. So let's both agree that we're going to get frustrated at times. And when we're frustrated, stop there and pause.
Mm,
So going back to that, when men ask, for a man who's feeling like he needs help,
yeah.
if he's in a relationship, if he has a partner, this is more for the partner listening, that if you get a sense that your man needs help, help him find help his way.
Yeah.
Because if you try and get him to get help your way, he's going to dig himself deeper in.
Yeah.
Whereas be the woman and nurture and go, right, I get a sense you need help. that's okay, because whatever it
Mm,
is that you need help on, let's find you that help in the way that you need the help, not in the way I want you to get it.
yeah, that makes sense. Definitely.
And then he's more likely to go, oh, okay. In the beginning, he might just go, no, 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 I'm all good, because he may have learned that accepting help is
Mm.
not, is
Weakness.
a sign of
Yeah,
weakness.
yeah.
So then it's also then a case of the nurturer to go, look, not to nag them, for want of a better word, and not to pressure them to get help. You just go, okay, when you feel like looking for help, I'll help you find the help.
Mm.
Whatever you do as the partner, don't go looking for help. Don't
Yeah.
go find it. Wait for him, even if it's a year, because what you're doing is planting the seed and you nurture and grow the seed. Do it that way within a couple of months, because he'll want to fix it.
Yeah.
And what you've done doing it that way, you've opened up an avenue, and then where he'll have an aha moment, and he'll see a road where I've got an inner problem. There's a way to fix it now, or at least there's a road towards
Mm.
fixing it, because men fix things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you
That's
give him that
important.
avenue. Yeah. So I'd
Definitely.
say, look, I can help you fix it. I'm not going to help you fix it, but I help you fix it. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Like,
Yeah.
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 See,
Yeah.
that's the like, all I've done is going, that's the road to fixing it. And I'll happily be the passenger along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
That's an
believe
important
you
note.
me, sometimes men often, um, when they're doing stuff, like someone there just to be there,
Mm.
not to help them, but just like if let's say we're fixing the car, for instance, or even you know, if we know you're there, they're happy as Larry. Like, great, because it's as though you're taking an interest in what they're doing.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So, ladies, you don't need to be their mother. You just need to be their
No,
support. Yeah.
no, there's a big difference between being their mother and being their nurturer.
Mm.
And the challenge is as women are often raised, because women are raised just as dysfunctional as men are.
Mm.
We're raised to be, sorry, women are raised to be mothers and men are raised to be fathers. Two very different roles. Very blurred these days, especially if you follow a lot of social media, which is all narrative anyway. But our genetics, our DNA that drives this need to be mothers, when I read something recently, actually, it was very, very true in that when a man and a woman get together, quite often the man will reprise his role as the child, but not to act childish, but to keep the fun in the relationship, to be silly, because he's got a space where he can be silly, because we need that.
Mm.
And what happens sometimes is that we misinterpret that as them, okay, you're always the child in the relationship. Well, yeah. And that's our kind of response going, yeah, because we're naturally, but you don't need to be the mother just because I'm acting like a child in that moment. But if the crap hits the fan and there's a bushfire, out in Australia there's a bushfire or something, we become the man. But we can't be the man all the time, just like a woman can't be the mother all the time.
Mm.
Switching on to a slight tangent, but in this very same energy, is I do a lot of conscious parenting as well. And I help people understand that you can't be your child's parent 100% of the time. You have to switch hats. And that's how you raise a very quite balanced child is you don't mother them all the time. You don't father them all the time. You don't discipline them all the time. You're their friend. You're their comedian. There's so many different hats that when you learn how to switch them in seconds and you blend with your child when they need the comedian, but then when they need the father and the boundaries and the mother and the nurturing and so on and so forth,
Mm.
you find that they're less anxious, they're less needy because you're meeting their needs. And kids
Yeah.
communicate depending on their age, the only difference between a child and an adult is a level of vocabulary. So a 5-year-old will tug and annoy you to say, hey, I need something, because they don't have the words to say, hey, I need something. So where the parent is, then they become the teacher and say, right, okay, I'm being annoyed. use words, and you start in the ballpark. You happy, sad, thirsty, hungry, and you
Mm.
give them that time, and you end up with 10 years later a very good relationship. And I know this because this is what I did with my son.
Yeah.
And now he's 8 or he's 20 now,
Mhm.
and he's comfortable with talking to me about he had a girlfriend who ended it yesterday, but he's comfortable talking with me with that. He doesn't shut himself down because I've taught him how to communicate,
Mm.
or by going, and it's still probably the same principle going in his head, right? I'm happy, hungry, sad, thirsty, need a beer because he's old enough now,
Mm.
whatever it is. That then when good things, so I was away in Malaysia at one point last year, and he rang me up and he crashed his car. He didn't have to tell me. He could have got away with it. I wouldn't have known any different. Well, I would when I seen what his car was like, but
Yeah.
ultimately he told me within about 12 hours because of the relationship I built.
Mhm.
Because when he was 4 or 5, I took the time with him to help him communicate what was going on. And then as he got older, it got less and less that he was tugging and annoying me because I'd taught him words to
Mm.
say, "Hey, Dad, I need something. Can you give me some help? I don't understand this." And as kids get older, they get more vocabulary, they can be more vocal. But if you tell them to shut up, stop annoying me, you're teaching them not to talk. You're teaching them to bottle it in.
Mm.
And then you end up with very aggressive teenagers.
Yeah. And that doesn't carry on very well when they want to meet a partner, doesn't it? Further
No,
down the
no,
line.
exactly. And then they have to, then the challenge is like you want your best for your kids. They then have to go through the healing process and they do that through bad relationships. Whereas if you teach your kid to communicate, so interesting enough, like when that girl had ended it, and there's friends beforehand, and she was stringing along a bit, and it's just learning his 20s, learning these new things. And I said to him, I says, well, then you can't be friends now. That bridge has been burned. You can't go back to what was before because she's still going to act the same. And you're just going to put yourself in a situation you don't want to be in. He said, yeah, I've already, and he surprised me actually. He said, no, I've already told her that we can't be friends anymore. And I was like, brilliant, mate. Because he's boundaries
Yeah.
and he could communicate. So he didn't want to be taken advantage of.
Mm. Very
I wish
important.
I'd known that at 20, to be fair. But
Yeah.
but that, if I'd known
That's-
that at 20, he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't have come along, but
Yeah.
because I wouldn't
Oh,
have met his mother. But
yeah. Yeah. I see, people are going to be listening to this and it's going to be going, yep. I get that. So also in your work, like you do like energetic healing as well. So
yeah,
you
I'm a Reiki
break.
master. Yeah, and intuitive healer and medical medium.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I can feel like mine. I actually get. I had a deal with my spirit team that I feel about 10% of the pain, which then helps me pinpoint exactly where it is and know what it is. The only time actually, and to be honest, like most of the time for me, that's fun. It's kind of fascinating. There was one time where I come across someone who got like chemotherapy, though. I didn't like that 10%. That was the worst thing I've ever
Had that one.
experienced in that regard.
Yeah.
But I remember I was actually, when it really first fully opened up to be on 100% of the time, I was sat next to a woman going through menopause. So that was, I think my spirit team just did that for a laugh. Yeah, let's turn it on now. Let's turn it on now. I was like, fuck it, because I think about a week before I'd finally retired from playing football, and then it's like my body gone, yeah, you played football for 27 years. Now you've stopped. That's it. We've been holding ourselves together for 27 years. You stop now. We're just going to break down. And that's what I thought was going on. I'm like, fucking hell, my body's just given up the ghost. I've stopped playing and it knows that now. So it's like, right, we can break down now. We're good. And then talking to the lady next to me and she was saying what was going on. I was like, right. So, right, I need to look into this and find out what's going on, and spent years feeling into and trying to make sense of what was going on in my body and disconnecting my cords and finding that most of the stuff that I feel is not mine, it's other people's. That includes emotions, and learning that when I get sudden pain out of nowhere, I've either just walked past somebody or something energetic's going on. Yeah, it was a fascinating journey, and then at the same time, my hands just started getting ridiculously hot enough to what I felt you could boil an egg on. So I looked into that, realized what that was, and but interestingly enough, this turned on not long before I moved out to Australia.
Okay.
And just before I got married the first time, I went for a reading, and this lady said, "Oh, there's this little Asian guy like in the background at the moment, just hanging around." And I didn't know who that was. And then when I found out who Dr. Asui was, of the Reiki guy, I'm like, ah, there we go. So he had stepped into my energy field even before my hands had turned on. So, and then over the years, I became a Reiki master, and more because it's a very misunderstood ability. People think it doesn't do anything or it's just too wishy-washy. But to me, it's like martial arts.
Mm.
If you put the time and effort into it, but the problem I find in Australia, I don't know if it's the same in England, a lot of people learn Reiki in Australia to try and make money, which means they don't understand Reiki because they try and learn Reiki 1 and 2 in a weekend and then 2 months later become a master. I'm like, well, no, you're not a master.
Mm.
Like it took me many years between 1 and 2. It was like 9 years between 1 and 2. But then I did do 2 and master really quickly because they said, look, you've got the abilities, you just need the certificates now.
Yeah.
So I've done the time. But when you can master, it's a way of life. It's part of your daily routine and life, and it's part of your energy system. So it's like your concrete base for everything else that you do because it teaches you how to channel
Mm.
and teaches you how to have a balanced energy so that, especially as a medical medium, I can disconnect my cords and I'm not carrying all this stuff. Because through my experience, I personally, and I don't mean this detrimental in any way, shape, or form, this is purely from an energetic. Any healer that is obese and anything beyond obese, morbidly obese, I wouldn't go for a healing because they don't know how to do the work. They don't know how to cut their cords.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah,
not talking about
emotional weight. Yeah, I
yeah,
get you.
yeah, because they're not, and so that means when they're doing healing on you, some of that's passing into you.
Mm.
So it's like, well, okay, you're clearly not a very good healer. And I don't believe that, and this is just me, I hold myself to a high level.
Yeah.
Like, and as we was talking earlier, that if you're a proper healer, you should never get sick. And so when I've been around a lot of spiritual circles in Australia, and there's people like always complaining that they're sick, always going to the doctor, and then they try and make out they're a healer. And I'm like, no, because you're not. It's
Yeah.
like hiring a plumber whose house is leaking water all the time. Would you hire that plumber? No, because he can't fix his own house.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same principle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for me, that's like, so don't choose the cheapest.
Hmm.
Choose the ones that look like they should be doing what they're claiming to do.
Yeah.
And as an interesting, we are speaking about this before as well. Like, there's a massive difference between a tarot reader and a tarot reader who's psychic. Because you can learn to read the cards because tarot has a standard meaning.
Yeah. I know. I teach it.
That that's yeah, exactly that. But that's very big. That's level one stuff.
Yeah.
I personally I teach intuitive tarot, so none of the cards have a specific meaning.
Yeah.
I mean, bar maybe the Fool is always the beginning of a journey, but sometimes depending on how the card's moving or looking, it's like, well, okay, why are you being a fool? Take it literally.
Yeah.
Or I might even get drawn to the spot on the dog that goes, and it's nothing to do with the Fool car. It's to do with Spot the dog that's the character in the cartoons, and I'm being led there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I follow where the cards, yeah, and
Yeah.
so
I think yeah, the healing is definitely a way of life. You've got to do the background and show that you do it as well. It
it's a
is your
discipline.
lifestyle. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, you
absolutely.
can't really see, but in the background there, let me go ahead there. There's all the Reiki symbols on that little whiteboard.
Oh yeah, no, we can't. The light's reflecting on it, so we can't see
Yeah,
them. But
yeah.
yeah,
Because well, Zoom blurs the background a little bit.
yeah.
But yeah, so there's all the Reiki symbols on that, including the dragon Reiki symbol as well. So and
Mm.
Daiko Mio and Raku and all these, yeah. That
And when did you
so
get your dragons, by the way? I forgot to ask you that earlier.
oh dragon they came in. we were talking about all these orbs, that
Uh,
side.
yeah,
They all came in when I won't bring them across. Can't see them. Probably
yeah,
that
we
one
can.
there,
Yeah, I
just
can
on
see
my
him.
shoulder.
Yeah,
So that is is crystal makeup is gold
oh,
obsidian.
right.
But when you hold him in a certain light, it looks like a dragon's eye because he's just a black orb with this sheen, and then when you turn it a certain way, it just looks like a dragon eye.
Mm, I love that.
And when Cannon, his name is, 'cause it's short for cannonball, because he literally looks like a cannonball. So when he first came into my realm, not long after all the dragons then came in, and
Mhm.
for those that get the whistling in their ear sometimes, which depends on the pitch, it's either angel speak or a DNA download from the galactics. If you feel it's a lower pitch, that's a download, and it normally lasts 10 minutes, depending on the size of the download. You might half an hour. Well, when the crystal orb started coming in, I didn't get the whistling, but I had energetic downloads for a week. All the back story of all the time with the dragons and all that stuff, and because I was the job I was doing at the time, I was on my own all day, so it was good. But I was exhausted by the end of the week. I've never been so exhausted in my life. Saturday and Sunday, I think I just slept.
Yeah.
But I can remember Friday through till Saturday lunchtime whistling my ear. So there was downloading a lot of information through images, physical world signs, voices on some days, and then at the end of it, I got all the DNA download. Yeah, so that's how they all then came in, and that was, and then there's still bits and more over the years, and then I found out who my dragon guides were, and then they come around sometimes, and I remember at the time I used to do a bit of painting, just probably nowhere near at your level. It was just more of a for those that ever watched Heroes, the Isaac Mendes scenario where he paint intuitively. And I painted this symbol that I painted it after I had a dream and it got scribed into the back of my neck. And I physically felt it during my dream.
Yeah.
And it was the dragon symbol for air
Okay.
because my dragon state in the human is air. From my experience, everyone I've come across who have dragon history and dragon stuff going on, they tend to be the benevolent dragons always come in fours: mother, father, son, daughter, and they're the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water. And the human tends to be air
Yeah. I don't know,
for whatever reason.
dragon.
So that, and so this got scribed into me. And then I found out my dragon sister's name, which was Ivy. And I'd know when I found that out, I'd noticed before I found that out in the bottom corner, I'd painted some ivy.
Okay.
And even one of the branches looked like literally had an I and a V in it. Really clear as day, not just like
Mm.
you making it fit. It was just clear. I was like, well, there you go. You know, and intuition just comes through to be revealed at a later date. So intuition is it's not now. If you're
Mm.
demanding your intuition to be now, that's ego.
Yeah. I've had mine for about a year, I reckon. But the energy was intense when it came in. It took me a while to work out that that's what was going on. I had to do like some sit with it for a while to try and work out. But yeah, it's massive. I've just
They're
got a
very
massive.
forthright. They're very forthright and
Yeah,
very direct. I love working with dragon energy because it's like no,
yeah,
it's just simply no nonsense.
yeah,
And
yeah.
in fact, due to the dragons, I got banned from a spiritual circle once, and it wasn't my fault. Like I was there because by that time I was very connected with all the dragons, and I would connect people with their baby dragon on the odd occasions. And so I
Mm,
went to this spiritual circle, and it was at this lady's house. And I'd been there a few times. It was all light and fluffy, and I was sat in a chair, and next to me was this ceramic candelabra. And then throughout the night, it caught fire because there was a baby dragon with me that I needed to hand over to one of the girls that was there. And so it was just having a play because that's what baby dragons do. And it was just learning to use its breath and they thought I was the devil and the demon. So even though I was trying to Yeah, but these were people that were supposed believers.
I
But then
know.
when it came to the real magic,
Yeah.
they just dropped into fear and fire and brimstone. And I'm like,
Mm.
you
Playing
know,
at
like,
it.
don't ever tell me that you believe in dragons, ever. You can't. Stick with your angels that are light and fluffy, but the dragons sit at the same energetic level as angels. They just don't look as pretty.
Mm.
Yeah, what was it? Shakespeare said something about the rose and the thorn, didn't he? Was the quote. None so sweeter as the rose and the thorn. Oh, I don't know, something like that. Someone will know.
Oh, so you're banned from that group now?
Oh, look, I never went back. And I was like, and that was just the universe going, you're beyond that. You
Yeah.
play in different realms. And that was in the early day, well, not early days, but in the early days of me getting to know who I really am and what I'm really capable of. So I'd
Mm.
end up in these circles and they go, no, it's too fluffy for you. We're showing you what's not you. So through my journey, I've been shown just as much what's not me as what is, which is good because it's given me a very good balance. And then I'm able to know, but it gave me a lot of knowledge on energies. So when people come and sit in front of me as a client and they want to evolve, I know where they're at.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, you've just been introduced to your angels. Okay, you're still at light and fluffy stage. Wait till shadow realm hits when you really have to start doing the inner work. Because again, I don't know what it's like in England, but the spiritual industry in Australia, there's so few that want to do the inner work, that want to
Mm.
truly evolve. They just want to play pretend. Like the amount of people that claim to be shamans that simply aren't
Yeah.
because they just like the sound of it and they want the power of it.
Hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the same here.
Yeah, and but I feel that's collectively as a human race, I feel that's also part of the awakening journey. You pretend at it, and then at some point you go jump in the pool
Mm.
when you're
Yeah.
ready. Because
Yeah.
when you're ready, when you're truly ready, the universe pushes you in the pool, and there's
Mm.
nothing you can do to stop it. And you end up, as we spoke earlier, going through a divorce, emigrating, having a car accident, breaking a leg, being really sick for a month. So many different things.
Yeah. Yeah, I always find like the people that I've met, especially since I've been doing this podcast where it's going all around the world, and the level that I've connected with, they're like a different level. These people that I'm like yourself are tending to work more solo, really. Like myself, I work solo most of the time.
Hmm.
It's really hard to find people at a certain level that you could actually really work with. It's really bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
So
we're not
I
meant
have
to
a
be.
theory around that. I have a theory around that. And so you've heard of the theory of the 100,000 that
Mm.
was supposedly a biblical, I don't know if it was a biblical thing, but the 100,000, no, 140,000, I think is there's a 140, some prophecy about 140,000 people. Well, to me, it takes 140,000 light workers to fully activate to flip Mother Earth from dark to light. So that the people like me and you that can't work with anybody else is because we're the power switch and everyone else is the light bulb. So when we activate,
Mm.
everyone we come across, we trigger something in them that then they eventually activate.
Mm.
It just means that more often than not, we can't be in close proximity because we don't need to we don't need to switch each other on. We're meant to switch loads of other people on. So
Mm.
the universe, as it's brought us through and incarnated us, it's placed us as different parts around the world to grid Mother Earth. So when we started coming through, the dark ages, the true dark ages, were starting to end. It's why Earth is in turmoil at the moment, because it's just the death throes of the dark. We've been in this spiritual battle for a long time, and it's coming to an end. But as
Yeah.
with anything, when it comes to an end, if you, for those that are watching, that are old enough to have been through a couple of relationships, that when it comes to an end, it starts getting nasty
Mm.
because there's always one lying and there's always one telling the truth. And the one that's lying doesn't want to be shown that they were the one lying. And that also happens internally as well, when we've been lying to ourselves.
Mm.
it gets to a point where it's untenable and we can't lie to ourselves anymore. And then we either admit what we've done or we admit to ourselves going, yeah, can't do this anymore. I've got to change. It's always the same. It's always that pressure of energy gets pressure and pressure and pressure until pop and the change happens. It's human, it's energetic nature.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you do well, I did ask you about the group thing a bit earlier on before we came online, but so do you do your healing online as well? Or do you just do readings online? Or which
Well,
bit
I
do
do
you do?
everything
I know you
online.
oh you
Yeah, because
do,
to me,
because I know
yeah,
you prefer to
to
do
me, energy knows time nor distance.
yeah.
So, yeah, I can.
I'm just wondering if there's any like men there that are being drawn to you, well, women as well, but and the fact that you they can connect with you online and you can do some like energy work with them online. Because then we
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
earlier,
yeah,
you prefer
absolutely.
one
Yeah,
to one,
yeah,
don't you?
yeah.
Like in
But on
person
look,
stuff.
in this modern day,
Yeah.
um, everyone's global. Because it makes me laugh sometimes. I go to when I was going to the spiritual shows and doing stuff like that, and
Yeah.
you'd see international psychic medium. I'm like, everyone's a freaking international psychic medium these days. It's called the internet. You know,
Yeah.
it's not. It's because they're living in the past. They haven't changed. You know, they've still got a photo from 40 years ago, and it's like own who you are now.
Mm.
Stop trying to be that 20-year-old because you're not that person anymore.
Yeah.
And you know, I think my photo that's on my website is 4 years old, and I'm not overly happy with that, but at the moment it's the best one I've got to use. But I guarantee that. But for me personally, I don't really change much over the years.
Yeah.
So
Well, I don't really take
um,
a lot of pictures of myself.
yeah,
So it's just like, who's got the time for that?
yeah, yeah. But it's
Constant
just part of
selfie.
social media. You know, the interesting of all this energetic work. To be global, you've got to play in the social media pool,
Yeah,
which is very low vibration. But
yeah,
you know, it's sometimes you've got to play in the devil pit because you're dragging people out of the pit of the devil pit. And when I say devil, that's your shadow.
yeah. I don't know. I wish there was another way to be able to connect properly rather than using the social media ones that I have to use within private groups and stuff. But well, Facebook and that are limiting everything that we're doing at the moment. They don't like outside links as well. So that
Yeah,
causes a
no.
bit of a problem for viewing. So it's a pain.
For, look, for me, just my own personal opinion is Facebook should go back to its roots and just become about your friends
Mm,
because you don't see what your friends are doing on your Facebook wall these days. It's just sponsored
no,
ads and
that's right.
people who are paid to appear on your wall. I want to know what like the people that I know in England or around the world. I want to see what they're up to because that's the whole point of having the friends that and I barely see that. And but when I first used to be on Facebook, so I kept in touch with a lot of people back in England,
Yeah.
and now I don't really bother with it that much. I mean, I have a Facebook group that I put links in when I've done a new meditation video or a new video or something that's spiritual. That's my spiritual group that I post more in that
Okay.
because, but
Yeah.
even, but unless, but here's the thing, like, unless you're following that group regularly, even that doesn't appear in your feed, even though you're part of that group, and it's ridiculous
Yeah.
because it's like anything, it's become all about money.
Mhm.
And so it needs to go back to its to be it's a social it was the social original social platform, but it's
Yeah.
not social.
But
It's like
that's the
walking down a
reason why I
high street.
started doing the YouTube. It's like so people could just go somewhere else and
Yeah,
they are interested, so they can sign up to it or just view it or whatever and just see what's going on. And rather just to get a bit away from the Facebook group. I only go on it to post my stuff and then I don't really look at it after that, unless somebody sent me a message and
yeah.
wanted
Look,
something.
the great to me the great thing about YouTube is when you're following a channel, it's normally the first thing that appears on your when you go into YouTube. You'll see the regular channels that you watch, so it's great, so you can keep up with them. Because like my wife's got a YouTube channel, so I follow that. So when she does a new video, it's always on my page, my front page,
Okay.
which is going like this, and it works both ways. So I'm like, great.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. Used to be with Facebook,
Yeah.
but it's not that anymore. Instead, you just get
Yeah.
some random sponsored advert on because the phone's heard you say a keyword. Like me and my wife were talking about homemade burgers earlier, and then lo and behold, I get a homemade burger advert pop up on my phone. Now,
I don't.
here's here's the thing about positivity and how
Yeah.
to not be controlled by not just fear, but the matrix, for instance.
Mm.
As humans, we're very powerful. We can control the matrix, but it's all about how we perceive. So people say, "Oh yeah, but they're recording everything you say, and it's fear and control and manipulation." No, you just it's great for manifesting. What do I
Mm.
want to manifest? And then the universe starts showing you pictures. There's keep saying that, and then it starts coming in your physical realm really quickly.
Mm.
And what you're doing is flipping the table and seeing it as a positive thing, which then helps you manifest it. Rather than, but if you see it as a negative thing, you're scrunching your energy down and being controlled by, I don't know, like if the CIA are listening to me, they're not hearing anything exciting. They'll be asleep after half an hour because life's not exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, he's talking about dragons again.
Oh, yeah.
Just not their thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
look, they might be into remote viewing. That was their thing for a while. Still is. But, you know, and that's not conspiracy. That's actually, you can
Oh,
read that
yeah.
anyway. That's something, there's a lot of information coming out that they've done remote viewing and stuff like that.
Mm. Have you ever done that?
I get looped into it like during COVID, I was getting looped into a lot of things that was really going on. Because again, I've got this energetic purpose, so I needed to be aware of a lot of stuff that was going on so that on an energetic level I could stop some of it, that I could report on some of it. I was working closely with the Galactic Council. For me, so people might find this a bit bizarre or out there, but this is personal experience. And so I've never been a big drinker. I've never taken drugs. I don't do hallucinogens or anything like that. This just happens in my waking. It tends to happen when I'm driving. That's my. I'm driving good. His
Yeah.
monkey brain's out the way. Likes drop stuff in. So um, can't remember where I was going with this now. Yeah, so I've got this ability energetically to go almost energetically invisible, which is virtually impossible because we're energy beings.
Hmm.
But for whatever reason, I'm able to do this. So they'll send me to places so I can remote view. But because as much as there's light workers, there's also dark workers,
Hmm.
people looking out for nosy psychics. And and if you're not doing this properly and you haven't been trained properly, you can put yourself in quite a dangerous situation energetically and end up with an attachment.
Mm.
So prior to all this, prior leading up to COVID, I was trained by spirit bit by bit, doing really powerful healings and a lot of other stuff. And I was like, okay, well, this is leading to something because it was all they all seemed to be part of the same puzzle. I just didn't know what that was. And then COVID hit. I'm like, there's the puzzle, right? Gotcha. So I was able to go to some of the really dark places that was really dark places in regards to what was happening. But because I'd already been trained to be able to disconnect energies, not get psychologically affected by it, and all that kind of stuff, sometimes when I was in dream state or driving, they'd just drop me in and go, right, we're sending you off somewhere, just get ready.
Mm.
And then I'd remote view. I remember once I was at this very high-end restaurant in London. There was a back room. You don't want to know what was in the back room. And but because I was able to go there and see there, the Galactic Council was able to pinpoint where it was because it was very well hidden, very well shielded, but I could get in because I was pretty much invisible, and
Mm.
then they could take care of it energetically.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, like there's some people out there that remote view willy-nilly, and I actually feel it's a lot of ego. Elizabeth April is one in question. Always remote viewing here, there, and everywhere. I'm like, who's giving you permission? Because again, I can tune into anybody anywhere in the world when and it's not me tuning in because I'm nosy. It's the spirit going, we need you to know this.
Yeah.
And I just feel a lot of it's ego because a lot of what she's saying is often just general knowledge or a common like at the moment she's talking about, yeah, I remote viewed under the pyramids because and I saw them. I'm like, but did you say that before it was out there in the media?
Hmm. Oh, yeah, I've
And
seen
and
that trend going
and,
on
and
there.
it's always a lot
Yeah.
of that happening, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't doubt she can't remote view, but I just think she goes
Some of
places
it's just
where
for views, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. She's a very high social media presence. It's like, well, let's look at
Yeah.
yeah.
I get my stuff when I'm walking. So I do a lot of walking along the beachfront and it jumps in. And I always ask for things to come in my waking dreams, as I call them, so I can remember them. So early morning stuff comes in for me and then I can remember it. But yeah, otherwise I don't really
Yeah, yeah. Is
don't
it a
need to know.
stone beach near you, or is it a gravel
That's a
beach or stone?
sandy beach, yeah,
It's
sandy.
sandy, okay.
Yeah. I don't really always walk along the shoreline. I always walk along the promenade bit sometimes. Well, I find the sort of the pathway, which has got trees and bushes and things like that, and hopefully it's not
Nature.
very wide. I walk along that bit generally.
Nature's the
But yeah,
best connection.
yeah, I miss the nature. There's not that much of it over by the
Skegness and
coast.
Mablethorpe were my seaside haunts growing up.
Yeah, it's been different, and I wondered, like if spirit sort of sent me here for a reason, because uh, I
Oh,
did a
I
lot of
guarantee it's going to
release.
be for a reason.
Yeah, I did a lot of clearing when I came here, a lot of emotional release as well when I came here. So I know, like, with this part, when the war was happening, even where I live, a lot of the soldiers were brought here for convalescence. So the building that I'm in was used for convalescence. It was used as a hospital. A lot of energy in here, a lot of spirit in here when I first came here. And of course, they used to dock in the ships and stuff. So when I first started walking along, I just walk along and I start crying. Tears were coming down. I thought, maybe it's the energetics of this place. I can feel it because there's been a war and everything here. And then after about a month, I realised it was probably me. I probably needed to
Well,
go
I'm getting a sense
clean.
that you are there to cleanse
It's the
the
space, isn't
area,
it?
you cleanse the space and bring it
Yeah,
into a new energy, and it's why you're near the ocean so you can release it and the ocean can dissipate it and
yeah,
take care of it. They're showing me like put some of that and find a pet, go for a walk, find a big, fairly big pebble on the beach,
yeah.
put the energy into that pebble, then throw it in the sea.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool. Go do that. I changed the energy in here because there was a couple that lived in here, used to fight a lot, and he was an alcoholic as well. So you can
Mm,
imagine the energy when I came in. It's not like that now.
yeah. So
And
what was he using alcohol to escape from?
well, I think
See the
there's
difference in
other
energy in that.
people
See the
in this
difference in
building.
energy in that statement compared to saying he was addicted to alcohol.
Yeah, yeah,
See the difference.
yeah,
One is very uplifting,
yeah,
and it gives that person that road out,
yeah.
and one is keeping them in a box, saying, "No, you're a bad person."
Well, I don't know what his problem was, but apparently he was in a bad way when he went, from
Mm.
what I can make out. But I mean, I used to get a lot of spirit coming in, not always pleasant. It's all locked down now. It doesn't really happen anymore. But there's people in the building that complain that there's a lot of spirit in here. There's people with want to bring pets in, and their pets refuse to come in. The dogs won't come in the building.
Because like, so for those that don't always believe stuff, because seeing is believing for a lot of humans, the human eye can actually only see about 20% of visible light. So there's literally 80% of visible light that we can't see, that dogs can, cats can, and other creatures. And it's it's not that they're refusing; they're looking at something. And like
Mm,
young babies or
yeah.
kids, children that are still open before they get taught that that thing's not there. They're the ones that I can remember once I was in a lift, and this was when I had one of my old gatekeeper guides was a Native American Indian called Whitehorse. Huge. He was the one that I could see as a young kid. This really big dark shadow in a corner when I used to sleep in the dark, and there was just a darker shadow in the dark. And I thought he was there. I just felt he was there to protect me, so I was never scared by it. And yeah, it was interesting. Like the lift stopped, and there's a woman with a baby that was about two, and the baby sort of, down at my knees, sort of looked at me, looked at something behind me, started crying, sat down, and would not get in the lift. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I know who's behind me right now. And he could see, this whether he or she, I
Yeah,
don't know, that the little baby could see
yeah.
my guide. And it was, he's a big guy, scary, big Native American Indian, like war paint and everything.
Wow, yeah.
And he just the baby just went, oh, don't get in that lift. So just because we can't see it does not mean say it's not there.
Mm.
There's visible light. Now, whether ghosts and spirits are in a different vibrational frequency, because that's what from a logical perspective, that's what they are. They're just on a different frequency, which
Yeah.
is why we can't see it, because it's in a different frequency of light of what our physical eyes can see.
Yeah, well, maybe the other people are different frequency here and they see more of the ones they don't want to see in here. I don't know, but they don't come in here anymore, not in my place. But yeah, it was
I've,
an experience when I first came
I,
here.
over the years, I've done a lot of house clearings,
Yeah.
all right? And 99% of them, it's just a family member hanging around. There's never, rarely anything dark. What?
Mm,
Because the thing is, people will watch horror movies, or they just generally believe there's a ghost in the house. It's nefarious, and it's
mm,
not. My experience, it's your granddad, grandma, uncle, one of your family members who's just still nosy, basically, or and normally they're there to keep an eye on the kids. They're just
mm.
fascinated by what they're doing because they didn't get to see them in their waking life because they were too young and they passed too soon or whatever. So yeah, that's my experience.
Mm. So
So
what would you
yeah,
make of
if you
this
feel like
then?
there's something in your house, there's a high chance that it's
Yeah, this one
someone
of
that's
yours.
hanging around that you knew. So don't be scared.
Yeah, well, they're not here to hurt us, are they? Anyway, they're just here to just keep an eye on you. But
Yeah,
I
exactly.
used to like it when the lights used to flicker and
Yeah, yeah,
stuff used to happen. The telly used to go on, kettle goes on. It's really, oh, hello,
yeah, yeah,
got a
yeah.
visitor.
I personally have been scratched and had the kind of like horror movie stuff
Mm,
happen, but that was just part of my training.
yeah, I
And
did.
now
I
now
was,
those dark things tend to fear me more than the other way around because I remember one of my very first entity clearings off an actual person, the being actually felt fear of me.
mm,
And they feed on fear. So it was essentially then started feeding on
yeah,
itself. And that was so empowering in that moment going, hang on, they fear me, but that's detrimental to, whoa, this is
mm,
an interesting turn of events. But I was always stayed humble. I always paid that realm 100% respect.
mm,
So if I had to go and banish anything, I took my full team, went in fully prepared. I was never blasé. I was never like, well, I can easily do this. I'm
yeah,
top dog. Because I knew spirit would slap me.
yeah. Well, it's things you don't really talk about, isn't it? A lot of the, I mean, I remember, I don't know how long ago, many years ago, I remember being woken up where I was being strangled. It was laying on top of me, strangling me. And it seemed to go on for a while. And I realised it wasn't going to let up. So, well, I just started laughing at the end and just saying things in my mind and it let go. But that was probably about the worst one I've ever had, is being woken up, strangled in
Mm.
the night by something. But yeah, the other things have tried and come in, but I always seem to see it with humour, and that seems to change the energy of it, finding it funny. That sounds bizarre, I know, but yeah,
No, that's quite normal. I mean, I've had a few people use spells to try and psychically attack me, and that didn't go too well for them.
yeah.
One ended up with a burn on their arm, and that was, because I won't go too full into it, but basically, like around at the time, I used to go to sleep about quarter to 12 at night, and this particular night, I just couldn't get to sleep, and I'm like, oh, what am I staying awake for? And then this moth appeared out of nowhere in my bedroom. Now, moths for me is always a
Yeah,
spirit.
yeah.
Often, your family members appear as a moth. So if a moth is hassling you, that's another one of your family members hanging around. But this felt differently. I'm like, all right,
Mm,
who's this? And literally within a second of me saying that, my phone dinged. And it was a spam message in Messenger, I think it was, or a program that I rarely used. And the person who spammed it was the name of someone I knew who was doing stuff. And so, you can't write that as coincidence. Like I'd
mm,
never received a spam message in months, and then out of blue when I go, "Whose moth is this?" Encroaching into my energy, and then it's the exact same name, spelled exactly the same way. I'm like, all right. So
mm,
I went, Spirit went, right. What do I deal with this, or is this just a test to be? Just ignore it. And they went, yeah, no, just ignore it. And then it came that I was still getting hassled throughout the night. And then it came to the morning, I was in the shower and I was still getting hassled. And I went, can I do something about this now? And they went, yeah. So I stepped into a different version being of mine, because he thought I was just this weak ass psychic that wasn't powerful or anything like that, because I don't tell people this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need to. So then I stepped into all this energy and cremated his energy and the entity that was attached to him that was using him to try and get to me. And it all went very south very, very quickly, because the entity that was attached to him that was trying to attack me, the beings that I work with, one of them was that being's boss. And so when he sort of appeared and I'd got these two beings with me, and he sort of went, oh shit, they work with you. I went, yeah, these are who I work for. It's not going to go very well for you. And then the next time I saw him at one of the spiritual churches, he'd burnt his arm. And in that vision of dealing with him, I'd cremated his whole being. So literally that energy went back. And I didn't do this as a psychic attack. I was just I was just
Yeah.
defending and just dealt with it, And then, yeah, in the end, I saw his arm all wrapped up, and I mean, I didn't talk to him. I was kept at arm's length. But,
Mm.
and then, yeah, it burnt his arm. But even that night, and I'd got my son with me that night, and my son was about 14, 13 at the time. He tried to physically come at me. But it was interesting because I was watching it all play out and people kept walking in his way. It's like the universe was making sure people got in his way, so I couldn't even get me physically. I mean, that wouldn't have gone very well for him either, because I'm a martial arts champion. I used to be. I'm an ex-martial arts champion. So,
Yeah.
and I used to do door security for many, many years in the town where I lived in England. So
Mm.
I was English champion, Welsh champion, Cotswold area champion, Gloucester area champion. So, yeah, I knew, but it's the fact that I'm like, I've got my son with me.
Mm.
And I don't know what his beef was. Is a
Jealousy,
ex-prison.
perhaps.
It was ex-prison, and the thing is, he was preying on women, and I was letting them know, and I think that's what was pissing him off. I was
Oh, okay.
making him face his truths,
Yeah.
and he didn't. And again, like we was talking about earlier, liars don't want to be caught lying. Manipulators don't want to be caught manipulating.
Mm.
Predators don't want to be shown that they're predators. And I was protecting the flock.
Mm.
You know, you might think you're a wolf, but I'm a bigger wolf
Mm. Yeah,
with
I
backing.
was I see it as a fly, an energetic fly.
Mm,
So when I see an energetic fly, I think, oh, okay, there we go. Start locking down. Um, but yeah, I don't tend to send it back. Well, it depends on, well, I'll be honest, depends how much they piss me off, to be honest.
yeah.
But generally I block
Well, that's why I asked
it.
permission. That's why I said to my spirit team, because I knew there was a big test going on at the time. So knew exactly what was going on. And then he had gone beyond the boundaries of the
Mm.
test. So that's when I said, okay, can I deal with it now? And they said, yeah, you've got full reign. All right. So and
Mm.
I just dealt with the energy. I didn't send anything back because I knew that would still come back to me.
Yeah.
I've always been very respectful of the realms, because if you're very respectful of the realms, they tend to treat you well, and
Mm.
you ascend, not ascend is the wrong word, but you evolve and you get given more responsibility. So, and I've always felt that's probably been part of my calling as well, to learn these things, then teach others.
Yeah.
Because I love teaching. I don't want to keep this all to myself. I love teaching others who are ready.
Mm.
No matter what level you're ready at, I'm like, yeah, if you're ready to be a medium, sorted. I can teach you the parameters. If you're ready to be a shaman, I can teach you the parameters around that. I can teach you the next stage of where you're at. You want to be a Reiki, fine.
Mm.
You want to be a psychic or open more to your gifts. There's so many, this realm is never ending, as you know. There's
Yeah, got
always something to learn. You're always learning something. You're always
yeah.
getting tested somewhere by your spirit team, the universe, God, whoever your dominant denomination is. I
Mm.
mean, I'm not fussy. I work with them all. Sometimes I'm working with Ganesh, who's part of the Indian bunch. Then the next day I'm working with Toth, and then the next day I'm working with my Native American, and then the Galactics, and then then a human will cross my path and say something to me. I'm like, that's just the answer. Thanks for that. Or it's
Yeah.
often my son will say something random to me, and it's like,
Yeah.
thanks. They loop him a lot to give me some random information that I've been searching for, waiting for these days.
Well, one thing, it's not been boring, has it?
Not at all.
No, it's all
Not at all.
no.
It's just fascinating. And if you always approach it as it being fascinating and never
Mm,
fearful, even the things that like the entity stuff for me, even though that's could be considered fearful,
mm,
and you approach it as fascination and it's a lesson, like, there is that very true. God never gives you anything you can't handle.
mm,
Your spirit team never give you anything you can't handle. So if an entity comes your way, you can handle it in whichever way you're meant to handle it, even if it's just blocking it out and going, okay, I'm being taught boundaries here, or whatever it is. So you just go, okay, what is this here to help me with? Is the question.
mm,
But so many people shut down and go, oh, it's an entity. And I've seen horror movies, it's scary. It's going to try and do this, that, and the other. And it's not the case. It doesn't work that way.
yeah, yeah. You did mention to me earlier on that you are writing a book. Um, so are you planning to have it published sometime soon?
Uh, Me and book writing is quite a slow process.
Yeah,
It's an animal totem book, so it's
yeah,
actually on a physical level, it's quite an easy thing. I can channel the animal, bird, fish, insect within
yeah.
seconds and download its message within. I can write it in 10 minutes.
Mhm,
It's that easy. Um, why I don't do it that I wait sometimes for a bit divine timing. I wait for the right moment. Half of it's written, I believe.
mhm,
I'm going to have about 40 or 50 animals in there. And because an Oracle deck already got created that I did the descriptions for, I'd already got 44 animals that I could use. So then I'm just waiting for downloads from spirit and guidance of which are the other ones as well. So I'm at the process of combination of waiting for them to come in to then do the description. The question you asked next year,
yeah. Okay, cool. So
I'd be surprised. Look, you can never say never because I know what spirit are like. Tomorrow they could just go, right, you're going to sit down, you're going to get it done.
mm,
So, but my current feeling in this moment is it's a next year thing.
yeah, that'd be
So I'll
cool.
finish it this year and then it'll be out next year.
Okay, so would you be open to coming back on and having a chat with us about your book when you done it
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
completed it? So yeah, I'd love to see it as well. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there is on my YouTube channel, if you look at the section where the lives are, I did used to do
Okay.
like a weekly live with the Oracle deck that was created.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's not out. I don't know when that'll be out because that's a co-collaboration with an artist
Right.
who's due to have a baby or has just had the baby. I can't remember now, but
Right.
so their priorities are not the Oracle deck,
Mm. So
which is fair enough.
what's the name of your YouTube? Because this goes out on podcast as well as YouTube. So so people that are listening, how can they find you?
Yeah, so it's Roy B, Man of Merlin. That's the YouTube tag.
Okay. You got a website?
Yeah, the www.iammerlin.org. So you can see a Merlin theme
Yeah.
because I me and Merlin's like my higher self. I've resonated with him before I even knew he existed. Like there was just something around. So then when I started learning all about that when I was around 7, it's like it wasn't new to me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hence the
And
stats. Yeah.
yeah, well that and stuff, but also I work closely with Excalibur as well, who's the mystical sword, who's an energetic being in his own right, who's come to me a couple of times when I've been doing entity work.
Mhm.
I can always remember the very first time he appeared, and I got starstruck. Oh, that's Excalibur! That was like my most starstruck moment. Like someone who loves Tom Cruise maybe would have got starstruck when he walked past it, come to a restaurant they weren't expecting to see him at. It was just I was lit like, and my spirit team went, "Do the job first. Get that done. Don't worry about that. Push over the sword afterwards."
Brilliant.
Mm. I was,
Okay.
but yeah, iammerlin.org. There's information. Obviously,
I'll
there's
put
a
all the links beneath this video so people can then connect with you via the YouTube as well. So, and
Yeah. And
obviously
my
tag you.
Facebook group is Roy B Man of Merlin. Instagram is Roy B Man of Merlin. LinkedIn's Roy B Man of Merlin. So, bar my web address, it's all Roy B Man of Merlin.
Yeah. So I'll put everything.
Everything. Yeah, because I look that's a more of a logical social media thing. If you keep the name the same across all the
Yeah.
platforms, you're much easier found.
Yeah.
And for the SEO and algorithms, you, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything on your website that people can just pop on and have a look? Maybe you've got something on there, freebie they can download or anything, anything going that they can.
The freebies I tend to do is the YouTube. There's some good guided meditations on there that I've done lately. There's connect with your guardian angel, connect with past over loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
There's a healing tuning fork video that activated me when I was just playing the tuning forks to
Yeah.
record it, and I was all wobbly afterwards. I was like, "Whoa!" So make sure you're not driving when you listen to that one, because I transitioned. I used to have a singing bowl, and then again I was guided to transition from that to the tuning forks.
Yeah.
They're just incredible. I was using them on my wife earlier for some healing on her shoulder, and they're
Okay.
just such powerful things. They're just incredible the frequencies they operate at. They hit at the cellular DNA level. Just so yeah, just make sure you're lying down when you listen to that one. Um,
Excellent.
so yeah, they're free, but my website, that's obviously for my business.
Yeah.
Um, I've got an online course on there that you can purchase through the website and do that at your own leisure, at your own
Mm-hmm.
pace, and that helps you really activate your intuition to the next level and helps you work with the physical matrix to draw so your spirit team can talk to you via the physical matrix if you are a seeing is believing person at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it activates a lot of other things and connects you with your animal totems. And so, yeah, it's cheap as chips what it is. It's very reasonably priced for what it activates within you. It 100% changes your life because I used to run this in person as a workshop, and
Mm-hmm.
it's changed people's lives because of it helps them see their spiritual side in a very different way and explains things in layman's terms.
Oh, it's wonderful. Well, I've learnt so much off you today. Oh, thank you so much for your time, because I know it's evening for you over there. So I do really appreciate you jumping on and
Oh, my
sharing
pleasure.
your
Look,
wisdom.
yeah, look, I appreciate your integrity because it was a long gap from contacting me to the podcast happening. So, and was Christmas was in between as well, I believe.
Yeah,
And you kept to your word, so that's always a good sign. So for
yeah.
those that would love to work with Tracie, she's a woman of her word,
Thank
and
you.
as a healer and a psychic, that's a powerful trait to have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you, Roy. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
well, let's stay in touch, you know.
Yes, we will,
We're very
definitely.
similar operators, so
Yeah.
it's always good to have like-minded souls around.
Yes. Yeah. Right, I'm going to thank you. I'm going to end the podcast now. So I'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.